Have you ever had that feeling, that you're capable of so much more, but something's holding you back from doing the work you're really meant to do? Well, today we're diving into a powerful framework from Seth Godin's book, The Practice, that might just be the key to finally getting unstuck. So let's start with a big question. Every single day, we make a choice about the kind of work we put out into the world. And it really boils down to this. Are you choosing to be a creator, or are you settling for being a hack, a hustler, or maybe just a cog in the machine? So what do we even mean by creator? Godin's definition is just fantastic. It's the generous act of making things better by doing something that might not work. The two most important parts there, generous and might not work. It's about helping other people, and it's about being brave enough to take a risk. Now, let's look at the alternatives. First up, we have the hack. The hack is basically ruled by fear. Think of a musician who only plays perfect note-for-note cover songs. They see what's already popular, and they just copy it. They avoid any kind of risk. Then you've got the hustler. Now, the hustler is different. They're actually courageous. They're totally willing to do something that might not work, but, and this is a big but, their motivation is all about them. It's about hitting a quarterly target or making a quick buck, not about creating real, generous value for anyone. And finally, there's the cog. The cog is generous. They genuinely want to help, but they're only comfortable when they're following instructions. They work hard inside the system, but they're too afraid to speak up, to suggest a better way, to try and improve things. And that's a huge problem when the world is constantly changing. Okay, so let's say you decide, yes, I'm going to be a creator. What's the biggest, scariest obstacle you're going to face? It's not running out of ideas. It's a feeling. It's that nagging voice in your head that says, you're a fraud. And this is absolutely critical to understand. When you are doing something new, something that hasn't been done before, something that might not work, you are going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's actually a sign you're on the right track. This is the mindset shift that changes everything. That feeling of being an imposter, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It is the signal that you are pushing boundaries, that you're doing something that matters. It's proof that you're actually creating. And listen, you are not alone in this feeling, not by a long shot. Every single person doing important, original work feels this way. They have to step up and act like they know what they're doing just for a chance to make a change. And that very act is what makes them feel like a fraud. So if this feeling is pretty much inevitable, how in the world do you push through it? Well, the solution is to radically change your focus. You have to stop obsessing over the outcome and instead fall in love with the process. You build a practice. Godin tells this perfect story to explain what this looks like. So picture this. You decide to go fly fishing for the very first time. You get all the gear, you're standing by the river, you're ready to go. But then you do something really weird. You make sure the fly on the end of your line has no hook. You've made it literally impossible to catch a fish. Now, why on earth would you do that? Because the second you remove the pressure of the outcome of catching that fish, you're finally free to focus completely on the process. You can just focus on the rhythm of the cast, your posture, the feeling of the line in the air. You can actually learn the practice of fishing. And the difference is just night and day. While Godin was there, totally in the zone, learning the craft, his friends who were obsessed with catching a fish, they just got more and more frustrated until they finally quit. It's this amazing paradox. When you detach from the outcome, you actually get way better at the process that leads to it. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking right now. This sounds nice, but if I'm not focused on results, how do I know if I'm making any progress? That is a fantastic question. And the answer is, you track two very specific, very different things. Godin says you can measure the health of your entire creative practice with just two simple metrics. And here's the thing. They have nothing to do with success or failure, but everything to do with commitment and volume. Okay, so the first metric is kind of wild, but it's brilliant. You measure the size of your discard pile. How much stuff are you throwing away? He talks about Drew Dernovich, a cartoonist for The New Yorker. Everyone just assumed he was a genius, but then he posted a picture of his desk, and it was buried under a mountain of rejected sketches. And this is the whole point. His genius wasn't some magic gift. It was the result of his commitment to creating a massive volume of ideas, fully knowing that most of them would be bad. He was simply willing to have more bad ideas than everybody else.
And your discard pile will look different for everybody. It could be lines of code that you had to delete, business ideas that went nowhere, jokes that fell flat. But here's the bottom line. If you're not growing your no pile, you will never, ever grow your yes pile.
And that leads us right to the second metric, shipping the work. This quote just flips our whole idea of creativity on its head. We think we have to wait for inspiration to strike before we can create something, but it's the other way around. Creativity is the result of consistently shipping your work. The act of shipping is what makes you creative. So, how do you actually do it? First, you make it a rule, not a suggestion, a rule. I post a blog entry every Tuesday. That's it. See your work as a generous gift. Take full responsibility for it. Own it. And hey, start small. Ship your first draft to a friend. Just build the muscle. And all of this, the process, the discard pile, the shipping, it all comes together in one final, powerful analogy. It's all about trust and how we move forward when we can't see the end. Think about it. When you're driving on a dark road at night, you can't see your final destination. You can't even see a mile ahead. All you can see is the next 100 feet or so that are lit up by your headlights. Well, your daily practice, your commitment to the process, to shipping the work, that is your headlights. And you just have to trust that if you keep driving, the road will get you where you need to go. And so, that brings us to the only question that really matters in the end. It's not about waiting for permission. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about trusting yourself enough to start. So I'll leave you with this. What contribution will you trust yourself to ship?